grammar rules. In this session, we'll look at some basic grammar rules, basic grammar concepts that will help you in your PTE academic exam. A lot of you, I'm sure, have this question in mind. How much time shall we spend on grammar? Especially people who have not studied in an English-speaking environment, who have not studied English at a high level, whether in school or in university, feel that their grammar concepts are not that strong. And then they ask us, do we really need to learn each and everything that comes under grammar? So the answer in a nutshell is that having some basic understanding, the key concepts, the fundamentals, that is important. But yeah, you don't have to learn everything in detail. This is not an exam of grammar. If you study the individual question types properly, you learn what kind of response is expected, you learn the proper structures, then that will take care of most of it. In some areas, for example, when you have to construct spoken responses or written responses, writing an essay, that is where grammar is important. It's important also in fill in the blanks. In speaking, as long as you don't make any major grammatical blunders, you should be okay. And even when it comes to writing and fill in the blanks, it's only the basic fundamentals that you need to know. And that is what we will focus on in this session. We'll look at what are the key things that you need to know. And then if you want to dive deeper into any topic, there are a lot of resources, good resources that are freely available on the internet. For example, BBC has a site for teaching grammar. There are very good lessons there. The focus of this session is to help you teach those things, which will take care of fill in the blanks, which will help you with writing. So most of the things that you need to know for PTE. The very first thing that we need to understand is parts of speech. So in a sentence, each word serves a particular function. And that category of word, that is what we call what is a part of speech. And traditionally, there are 8 parts of speech. We'll, in a minute, look at each one of them with the help of an example. So if you understand what are those different parts of speech that you need to have, then for example, you are attempting a fill in the blanks question, then you can quickly figure out which part of speech is missing from there. Is a noun missing? Is an adjective missing? Is a verb missing? And then that will help you to pick the relevant option. Similarly, when you're constructing a sentence, for example, in an essay, this knowledge will help you to form a grammatically correct sentence. The first is noun. So words that name people, places, things, or ideas. For example, car, happiness. He bought a car. So car there is a noun. So usually people, places, things, or abstract concepts like happiness, these are nouns. Then you have pronouns. So words that take the place of nouns. And this concept is important in questions like reorder paragraphs. So the first paragraph, for example, it introduces a concept, talks about a car, talks about a person. And then the paragraph that should come after that has a pronoun which refers to that car or that person. So knowing the relationship, knowing what a pronoun is useful in questions like that. After that, you have verbs. So words that express actions or state of being. So person running, that action, eating, running, studying. So those are verbs. And usually in a sentence, what is a sentence? So the purpose of sentence is to describe something, like someone doing something or something is happening or something happened. So you often have a noun and you will have a verb which will tell what the action is. Then you have an adjective. So words that describe or modify the nouns or pronouns. So for example, in the first, when we looked at the noun, the example we took, that he bought a car. So he bought a red car, he bought a blue car. Then the red or blue, that is an adjective. Okay, that describes what kind of a car it is. Okay, or he bought a very fast car. So that fast car, fast is again an adjective. Similarly, you have adverbs. So words that modify verbs, adjectives, or other adverbs. So for example, he ran. So ran is a verb, but if we say he ran quickly, okay, now we are describing the verb. How is that action taking place? It's taking place quickly. So that is an adverb. We also have prepositions, words that show the relationship between a noun and other words in a sentence. He is sitting on a sofa. So that on is a preposition. Then you have conjunctions. He did this because of this. He wanted to go but could not because he was not well. So these words that join words, phrases or clauses, these are conjunctions. And similarly, you have interjections, words that express sudden emotion or a feeling. So usually when you say, oh, wow. So these kind of things, these kind of words, these are interjections. Mostly you will be, for fill in the blanks type of questions, you'll need to know nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs. And knowing prepositions, they can sometimes give you an idea because it's a relationship between a noun and other verb. So if someone is sitting on, you know that after that, there has to be a noun. So that is how they'll be useful. But otherwise, mainly you need to, if you can identify nouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs, that should take care of most of the questions. Now we know parts of speech. So let's just try to do a quick exercise and try to recognize these parts of speech with the help of some examples. So why? Because understanding the function of words, it helps us in choosing the appropriate word for the blank. So this is something, parts of speech recognition is an essential skill for your fill in the blanks. You can still answer fill in the blanks correctly without knowing this or without knowing any grammar, based entirely on your common sense or on what you have already read in the past. So if you have been living or studying in an English speaking environment, you have been reading, you have read a lot, then most of these things will come automatically to you. Fill in the blanks, you'll be able to do them quickly. You don't have to stop and think whether I need a noun, whether I need a verb. Mostly just because you have read, you've seen those kind of words, those kind of sentences before, you'll be able to fill in those blanks. But for others who are not that confident, who have not had that kind of practice, recognizing the parts of speech becomes more important. Now, if this is a sentence, the sky is beautiful. So what is sky here? It is noun. So as we said, it's a thing, a place, name, etc. So something material, and that is sky here. So sky is beautiful. You know that sky is a noun. So if the blank was the dash is a beautiful, then what type of word will you try to pick from the options? You'll try to pick a noun. The next one, she ran to catch the bus. So what is ran? Yeah, I know you know this. It is a action she took. So that's a verb. That is what she is doing. So that is the action and that is the verb. He wore an expensive hat to the party. Now what is expensive? When you look at that, first see, let's say there's a blank in place of expensive. So what is after blank? It is hat. What is hat? It's a noun. And from what we just studied, what can come before a noun? Maybe something which modifies that noun, which describes that noun, qualifies that noun. So expensive tells us what type of hat it is. So it's an adjective. So that's why we go with expensive. Similarly, he ran dash to catch the bus. So with a verb, what can we have? We can have an adverb, and that is quickly. It tells us how he ran quickly. So you see, simply by looking at the sentence, wherever there's a blank, you look at the words before that blank and the words after the blank, and then based upon what is missing, what is given. For example, hat is given, hat is a noun. What do I need? I need an adjective. Ran is given. After that is a blank. So what can come after a verb? Maybe an adverb. So that is how you go about it, based upon your parts of speech recognition. Now, of course, there's still a few more things that you will have to do in the fill in the blanks. For example, he ran quickly to catch the bus. He ran, there can also be another adverb. So there can be multiple adverbs, but then based upon the meaning, what makes sense, you have to pick the right one. All right. So both your knowledge of grammar as well as your logic is important in fill in the blank. Now, let's look at adjectives a bit more in detail. So basically for the fill in the blanks, etc., the rule is that if there's a blank and then there's a noun, then you have to select the appropriate adjectives that will modify those nouns. So the grammar rule is adjective and the common sense or the logic is that it has to be appropriate. Let's look at the example. So she wore a dash dress. Now dress is a noun and from the options that would be given to us, I'll look for an adjective, which in this case is beautiful. The red car is mine. So dash car is mine. Then again, I look for an adjective and the red car, yes, sounds good. So I'll pick red. That is how you go about adjectives. A similar kind of process for others. For example, adverbs here. Now these, they modify, they can come with a verb or an adjective or even another adverb. He speaks dash in class. How does he speak? Speak is the action, and then a word that describes that action further will be an adverb. So we will look for an adverb, and logically, when someone is speaking, maybe loudly, slowly, the volume, the pace, etc., that kind of words will be most logical. So based upon that, we pick loudly, which is also an adverb in the right form. So that's an option. She arrived early for the morning. So the action of arrival and the word that modifies it, early. Another important concept that we need to look at is subject verb agreement. So this is a basic concept, but yeah, it helps you further in writing. A lot of people make this mistake. The subject and the verb, they don't match. And then this will also help you in fill in the blanks to some extent. So basically the rule is that the subject and the verb, they have to agree in number. So if the subject is singular, the verb has to be singular. If the subject is plural, the verb has to be plural. The cat is sleeping. So we can't say the cat are sleeping. The cat is sleeping. So that's why cat is singular, and is, that is the singular form of the verb. So that's how. The dogs run fast. So dogs are plural, so we use run. If it was the dog, just a singular dog, then what we will have? We will have runs. The dog runs fast. So usually the S goes after the verb when the subject, it is singular. So if it was a singular subject, the dog, we will have runs. Next, the book belongs to me. If it was the books, what will we have? We will have the books belong to me. They like pizza. If it was just one person, we will have he likes pizza. The teacher, along with her students, is going on a field trip. If there were multiple teachers, then what we will have? The teachers, along with their students, are going on a field trip. So we will have a plural form of verb there. So you see the subject and the verb, and it's very common to see these kind of mistakes. People will write the dog run fast or the dogs runs fast. But just by keeping this simple rule in mind, you can avoid this type of silly mistake. After that, verb tenses. So now I won't say that you go into detail, you study each and every tense, but just a basic knowledge of past, present, future. And then if you need to study further, you go to, as I said, BBC has good resources. There are a number of websites which will explain you, which have these tutorials on verbs, and they are all free, very detailed. I mean, you can study verbs for hours and hours. Logically, what you need to keep in mind that the time frame of the sentence, it should stay consistent. So if the sentence is talking about something which is happening now, then all parts of that sentence, all words, they should be in the same time frame, in the present time frame. If it is something about future, then everything should be about future. Okay? Usually you have to avoid this mistake that some words are pointing to future, some words are pointing to past. So that is a logical thing that you need to keep in mind. And based upon that, this simple rule, you can pick the right words in your fill in the blanks. So she dashed for the exam yesterday. And so I want you to pick the correct form for study here. Yesterday is past tense. So the past tense form of study, studied. She studied for the exam yesterday. So if you have multiple options there, let's say you have one option which is study, you have another option which is studied, there's another option will study, then you know that since this is yesterday, you have to pick the one which is related to past. Similarly, tomorrow means you have to pick the one for future, so will play. He dash here for 5 years. So means something that has been happening, going on for 5 years and is still continuing. So that is your present perfect. So he has worked. She dashed a letter last night. So she did something last night. The action ended last night. So she wrote, and that's a simple past tense. So even if you just take care of past, present, future, maybe the perfect tense, just read a little bit about that. And then based upon, for example, here for 5 years. So pay attention to the words that describe the time period. This is yesterday, for the exam yesterday. And then ask, like think of a timeline. That something is starting way in the past and continuing, the line is going way into the future. Now on that time scale where a particular event is happening, if it happened in the past and ended in the past, then it's simple past. If it will happen in the future and we are clear it will happen in the future and That's it. It will end there. Then it's a simple future. Something that started in the past and is still going on. That is present perfect. So just those simple rules, 5, 10 rules if you learn, and then you pay attention to the words which describe that time period, what type of a time period is, then it will become very easy for you to pick the right options and fill in the blanks. This is another one. By next year, so this is about future perfect. He will do something and it will happen in future. By next year, he will have traveled to 5 different countries. So it's a future perfect tense. So those are the basic things. You don't need to go and look into each and everything. You don't need to do hundreds and thousands of grammar exercises. Parts of speech, as long as you can identify that, adjectives and verbs, nouns, what they are, if you know that, that's fine. And then based upon the time period, if you can identify the correct form, then pretty much that is all that you need to learn. That should take care of all the questions that come in PTE exam. Of course, to build up your confidence, you're welcome to refer to any other free resource. There are hundreds of resources. And in your course dashboard, I've also included a few links. So you can just go there, and if you want to study tenses, you can study tenses, etc.